Well, welcome everyone to the show. We are here live, CFL Week 1 kickoff pregame show. How is everyone doing?
Doing good.
I'm doing great.
Can't wait.
This is good. It was a tumultuous last couple weeks. I'm really glad that even with all the shenanigans going on with the CBA, I think training camps and everything went well. We have Tim and Cliffy from the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast on here. I have my wonderful shirt that they were nice enough to gift me last year when Tim was on. We have Aaron with CFL News Hub. We might have some other people hopping on, some CFL News Hub writers. I kind of sprinkled the link all over if people want to hop on. And then we'll probably be taking some calls too here. So I'm riding this out up until game start. If anyone needs to hop off, just let me know. It's a very fluid live stream. We've done a couple of these with the USFL stuff too. So just let me know, private chat or whatever, and I'll post the link here in a few minutes if people want to call into the show. First off, Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Flightdeck podcast, and we'll get Cliffy and Aaron's comments as well.
Yeah, well, the Flightdeck podcast, I will admit, it would not be around if it wasn't for Cliff, because Cliff and I've been a long time Alouette season ticket holders. This will be my 25th year as a season ticket holder for the Alouettes. And I don't remember how we met Cliff, but we just did. And when we clicked, and then Cliff 7 years ago, he said, you know what, we should do an Alouettes podcast, because there wasn't one around at that time. And he knew that I was a veteran of doing my Arena League podcast for 20 plus years. So I said, you know what, dude, let's do this. And hey, since then, history. So
that's good. And we're excited today. I wanted to get some Alouettes coverage on. All the Stampeder guys are all getting ready to go to the game. That's fine. We'll get the Ryan Ballantynes of the world on later. Cliffy, what are you looking forward to most tonight with the game taking on the Stampeders at home?
I think for me, what's going to be most exciting is seeing what Vernon Adams and this offense can do. And they've got a good challenge in front of them. Let's face it, Calgary is still considered one of the premier teams, even though they haven't won a Grey Cup in a couple of years. They still are, as far as I'm concerned, the benchmark, along with Winnipeg, as far as what CFL teams should strive to be. And to me, this is going to be a good test, because we've got a lot of new faces, as well as some of the core elements of that 2019-2021 team that was so popular. To me, that's what's going to be key, is see how this team, as it sits right now, goes up against a team of a high caliber like the Stampeders. To me, I'm looking forward to seeing a really interesting, a really fun matchup.
It's weird. It's a weird, last year we had the Grey Cup repeat, right? It was, the Winnipeg Hamiltons of the world. Weird to have this be the first game. Do you feel that way? Any historical significance there?
In some senses. I was actually talking about this with Tim on the most recent podcast. Was the last time these two teams met up to open a season was back in 2014. 2014.
The first game of the year?
The first, the Alouettes, the season opener, so to speak.
Okay. Okay, continue.
Okay. That didn't work out so well. But in 2009, the Alouettes and the Stampeders played in Calgary for their very first game. Montreal won that game and went on to win the Grey Cup that year. So to me, that's sort of a good feeling. That's kind of a good omen, if you will. So, I'm not saying if the Alouettes win today, they're going to win the Grey Cup in 2022, but it certainly would set the tone. At least it would certainly get a lot of people talking about the fact that, hey, maybe this Alouettes team is for real.
Aaron's here. Aaron writes, covers the Ticats for CFL News Hub. Aaron, what are you making of all this nonsense? I'm BC, you're Hamilton. We don't really have a dog in this race, but excited to see CFL football.
Well, I think it's two of the better offenses in the CFL coming back from last year. So I think it should be an exciting game. Montreal, came out of nowhere last year and played really well. And Calgary's always a great offense. So I expect to see a good game, very competitive, and we'll see who comes out on top.
We have some comments here. If you guys want to leave comments, questions, whatever, happy to answer all those as well. Like I said, we'll take calls here a little bit. Danny Austin has been up in arms about this. We're besmirching Bo Levi Mitchell, right? People are saying that he's, injured, whatever. Tim, what do you make of the Bo Levis of the world here?
Well, I kind of go back to what was for Vernon last year. And everybody was saying just because he was in his sophomore season that it was going to have a horrible season. Cody Fajardo was under the same type of circumstance too, and he did fine. I think it's just a matter of Bo Levi. He was hurt. We know this. People just need to give him a chance, like we're trying to give Vernon a chance to show what he can do. Everybody knows how good Bo Levi is. There's no question about that. But like Vernon, there is a backup behind him that can take his place if and need be when it's necessary. I think, Calgary fans don't really have any worry about it. I mean, it's just let Bo be Bo.
Let Bo be Bo. Let Bo cook. Cliffy, what do you make of that? And like feel the need of the CFL media, I guess, to defend Bo. I mean, he struggled last year. Hurt, came back. I thought Jake Mayer looked really good. Jake was on our show in the offseason. I mean, I think that's a really solid backup that you have, kind of like a Nathan Rourke, rookie here now coming out and hopefully getting the start here later. What do you think of Jake Mayer?
Oh my gosh. I mean, he played against the Alouettes last year and he was great. I'll be honest. He played an extremely competitive game and really gave the Alouettes a lot of fits. So based on that alone, and just seeing what he was able to do while Bo Levi was injured, I can see why a lot of people would be like, "Oh, maybe Bo's starting to lose his magic. Maybe he's not the man anymore." But I still would consider Bo Levi to be one of those top tier quarterbacks in this league until he proves otherwise. So there is kind of that thought that, okay, no matter what, Calgary always seems to have a plan B in place. And if Bo Levi starts to falter for whatever reason, at least you can go to a Jake Mayer and he'll provide you with a very strong competitive, quarterback situation. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, I still think Bo Levi still has some gas in the tank, but I know it's got to be weighing on his mind just a little bit. Like if he starts to falter a little bit, like how long is that leash on Bo Levi Mitchell, knowing full well that Jake Mayer can and would step in and perform just as well as what Bo Levi could.
Aaron, what do you think of, we got Vernon Adams here, right? Like you said, right. Trevor Harris is behind him, right? Am I remembering this correctly now? We signed Trevor. Like, what do we make of him playing? Does he have a chip on his shoulder this season? It's kind of like the McLeod Bethel-Thompson. Like, am I the guy? Am I starting? What do you make of that?
I think competition is a great motivator. He had a great season last year. So to bring in depth, if it is threatening to him, it should allow him to elevate some and play at a higher level. But in the CFL, I've watched the CFL for 30 years, and depth is the biggest factor in the league. If you don't have at least two quarterbacks who can play, you're going to be in a tough spot sometime in the season. So, I mean, he needs to step up and play great and avoid turnovers. That's a big deal. So if Trevor Harris comes in, he's good at managing a game and not turning the ball over. But I think both quarterbacks could be very good. But I think you need two good quarterbacks in the CFL because if one goes down, what are you going to do? You need two guys who can carry the weight.
Tim, who do you think made more work in the offseason to improve their rosters here, Montreal or Calgary?
I think Montreal would probably have done a better job. I mean, they wanted to, yes, keep the core together, but they wanted to improve it ever so slightly, and that's Danny Machocha. I mean, obviously, you look at how well Calgary has done all these years, and bringing guys from inside the organization to just continue. Somebody goes down, somebody pops up. You can't fault them for that. So I think more or less, it'd be the Alouettes this year because I think they're just. In a way, defense is decimated by free agency. They had to make some changes, and so far, it looks like I'm pretty happy with what they have.
I'm really happy here. Obviously, we came into this fresh last year, not really knowing a lot of this stuff, and it was kind of a crash course getting into the season. It has been really thrilling for us to kind of live through this offseason, see the re-signing, see the big moves, and all of that. Cliff, what did you make of between Calgary and Montreal and kind of bulking up before the season?
I definitely think Montreal had no choice. They had to make some moves because, again, the core elements that were in place, you know what you have with guys like Eugene Lewis and William Stanback and even Vernon Adams. It's how do you complement those guys? How do you find pieces that complement them and make them, work even a little bit harder just to maintain that sort of, top level that we've come to expect from the Montreal Alouettes. Defensively, a lot of the moves that were added, I was a little shocked at first, but now I look at how this team is set up, especially on defense, and wow, between the CFL draft, like getting a Tyrell Richards in, and he proved his worth already in the preseason game with an outstanding hit versus the Ottawa Red Blacks. The defensive line has always been a sort of a contentious point for the team. I think this year, the way it sits right now, like it is practically a murderer's row of talent when you look at this defensive line. I think this is a team, like last year's defense made a lot of noise. They lost a lot of pieces in the free agency. I think they've retooled themselves, and I won't say it's better than what it was last year. It's way too soon to tell for that, but I got a feeling this team defensively is not going to miss a step. With Baron Miles as the coach, like he knows how to get the most out of his players. And I think with the guys that he has in this lineup, I think they're definitely going to make a lot of noise. I
got a question here, Aaron. This from listener Max, Ranger King. On that, who between Reggie White Jr. and Hergy Mayala, am I saying this? My American dumbness. Do you think he'll have the better season this year?
For me, I think
Reggie White Jr. had a better year.
What do you think about that? Why so?
Just a returning player, consistency. Just a talent to be a playmaker, but needs to get experience. I think another year in his belt can come in and play well.
Cliffy, what do you think?
I was actually talking about this yesterday on the podcast. I think Reggie White Jr. has the potential to be that breakout superstar, like the guy that can take that next level step and be up there with like the Eugene Lewis's and the Jake Wineckis of this team. That being said, though, Hergy Mayala is a bona fide playmaker. He did an amazing job when he was with Calgary. And I got a feeling now that he's back home, so to speak, because he's a Montreal native, I got a feeling he's going to be a big part of this offense as well. So I would give a very slight edge to Reggie White Jr., but don't sleep on Hergy Mayala either.
Tim, Theodore is giving Calgary the slight edge because of extra practices. I saw Dickinson, one of the coaches was complaining about the extra practices because of the CBA nonsense and all that. What do you make of that whole kerfuffle with like someone got 2 extra reps or whatever in camp?
It's nonsense. There's nothing we could have done about it just because of the labor laws out west in Alberta. There's nothing we could have, no other teams could have done anything about it. Camp was starting. Camp was still going on. Yes, they had the extra reps, but will it make any difference? Not necessarily. We'll find out starting tonight. So
other games we're excited for, right? So tomorrow we have Ottawa at Winnipeg. We'll see. I expect Winnipeg here. The Edmonton BC game on Saturday, I'm really looking forward to. Aaron, what game of the other 3, besides obviously the big kickoff tonight, do you expect high things from this weekend?
Well, I do expect Ottawa to be a much improved team this year with some acquisitions they made. So I think, Winnipeg coming in, you would expect Winnipeg to win, but I think Ottawa will play well and could be a surprise team this year.
Cliffy, what your favorite game of the weekend besides tonight?
I'm curious to see. Let's see. I'd probably have to go with Edmonton and BC because these are 2 franchises that have been kind of down in the dumps over the past couple of years. They've made some big changes, not just to their front office, but also to their on-field team as well. I have a feeling that this could be a very competitive game. It could be a lot of fun as well, because when you get a Chris Jones team, I mean, good things are going to happen no matter what, but it's always going to be entertainment no matter what happens on or off the field. So I'm really excited to see that match, to tell you the truth.
Tim, we'll get your thoughts on the game too. I popped up this question: will the Philpott brothers get any playing time tonight?
Not for Calgary. He's hurt. He's on the 1 game. So for the Alouettes, I think he's second on the depth chart for the Owls.
Yeah.
And what game are you looking forward to besides the kickoff tonight?
Toronto not playing. No. Actually, I'm on the same boat as Cliff. Just hearing how packed it's going to be at BC Stadium this weekend, it's just it's something that I want to see. We're used to it. All props to what's happening in Saskatchewan. Obviously, it's always packed there. Same thing in Hamilton. But man, they need this in BC. They really do, and it just goes to show what's happening with their new ownership. So
I'm really excited. I think I'm going to have to do a Victor Quee challenge tomorrow. I think we'll have to do a BC. I was sitting there today on the treadmill. I thought, I think I need to challenge Victor like we did back famously last year when Tim had to change the Alouette Flightdeck podcast to a BC Lions logo. And then I besmirched this shirt. And I couldn't really tell if you were mad at me or if this was like, I couldn't tell if we crossed into kayfabe or not. I was like, maybe I really pissed him off with that. But I think Victor would do that. I think Victor would be game for a social media logo challenge, Edmonton versus BC.
I think he'd be the kind of guy that would be down for something like that.
I want to take some more questions here. We'll do some calls. Aaron, in terms of the excitement around BC, we have the One Republic concert, right? And then it's the guy from Bare Naked Ladies, which I'm thrilled about because I love Bare Naked Ladies it's the guy that left, right? So Bare Naked Ladies.
Stephen Page.
Yeah, Stephen. I love Stephen Page. Really excited for that. Aaron, what do you make of the excitement in BC?
Well, I think the team's been getting better, and I think the excitement is great for the league, not just BC. In some areas of the league, attendance has been going down, but now we have a spike. We have interest. And I think it's really important for the CFL to celebrate that and build off the fact that BC is drawing a lot of interest from their fan base, and we can all build off of that.
I think it's crazy. Mark, Brendan, thank you for we got the $1.99. You can super chat on here. You can get thanks. I appreciate that. The YouTube ads don't pay as much as you would think. It really does feel like, Cliffy, I want to get your thoughts. A lot of work here in the off season. The Red Blacks doing the behind the scenes stuff. We have BC, right, doing the Arrow, and we've got, Matt and Nick are doing the podcast again over there. I know there's another, is it Calgary that's doing the behind the scenes stuff too? I mean, what do you make of all this really grassroots team driven effort here to build interest in the offseason?
Well, this is the thing that you have to do when it comes to promoting your football team. And if you sit around and you wait for TSN to come and pump your tires, you're going to be waiting a while. So I think it kind of behooves every CFL team to have a good social media presence, a good videography person working for them. It's someone who can really help bring the fans behind the scenes, kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and just see how their team operates and what they're doing when it comes to preparing for the season, whether it's training camp stuff or just, even something simple like, behind the scenes at a photo shoot, explaining, what they're trying to do to help get fans hyped for the season. This is the sort of stuff that really all the teams need to do, because one thing that people complain about more than anything else is that the CFL does a terrible job of marketing. So at this point, you may as well take it upon yourself, if you're a CFL team, to promote your players, promote your team, promote yourself in the city that you're playing in, and just get people excited about football. It's one of those things, to me, I think it's one of those things, it's not that you should want to do it, it's that you have to do it. You have to really make yourself stand out amongst the crowd and get people excited. And the fact that even people in other cities are excited for what BC's doing or for what Edmonton's doing or for what Saskatchewan's doing. That's great, because that means everybody's interested in the league. Everybody's interested in seeing Canadian football grow. And if you can get all 9 teams on board with that and get them all stronger, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And then at that point, this idea that the CFL is a niche sport or a niche league or something like that it only caters to certain individuals. It's going to take stuff like this that's going to help sort of kill that narrative and get people thinking, hey, this is fun. This is interesting. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is even having in Montreal, RDS, which is the Alouettes French broadcast partner. They're doing a behind the scenes thing too from camp forward, and then I think they're doing a 6 or 7 episode thing throughout the year. So it's what, we're lucky to be where we are currently health wise in Canada. I just think that, because there are less restrictions, this is very possible. This is something that the league wanted to do back in 2020 or in 2021. But it's, hey, I'm all for it. It's more promotion for every team and for the league.
The behind the scenes, Derek Dennis going through Calgary Media Day, was the greatest thing and cost no money, and just follow him around with a cell phone camera or whatever video stuff you're doing already there. I just thought that was so great. I mean, Derek Dennis already really outspoken and a star on social media. But that's the way you make someone in a minute and a half, is just show that, give people a reason to cheer him. Aaron, what did you make of all of kind of the social media stuff, the Derek Dennis, all the other behind the scenes stuff?
Well, I think any exposure we get is cool. And I mean, giving a look behind the scenes is a big draw. I remember in the spring in the USFL, there was some talks that they could make that into more like a reality show and show behind the scenes stuff. It'd be a much bigger draw for fans. I think using the social media for that aspect, fans want to know what it's like to be with one of these teams. And I think the more you can show them what that experience is like, the more into it they'll be and the more connected they'll feel to the team.
Tim, I have a question here. Where did it go? How do you think Cavill would have done in the NFL?
Last time that I know that last real tryout, if I'm not mistaken, was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that was back in
2003.
Yeah, thank you. 2003. It's hard. You know what? It's really hard to say how AC would have done. I mean, I think he would have been successful. I mean, would have been along the Flutie type of thing. It's possible, but it was all about, it would have to have been the right team. I mean, I would have been happy. Steelers on my team anyway. So if AC had gone there, I would have been happy. But it's really hard to say how he would have done. I'm sure he would have been successful. But again, it depended on what team, what head coach, and the type of offense. But, you know, with all honesty, he wouldn't have become at that, you know, he wouldn't have become the all-time leading passer in the CFL had he gone to the NFL. So I'm happy with his decision.
Why are the Steelers your team?
I don't know. And it wasn't a bandwagon thing. I was such a young kid at the time, and I really don't know why the Steelers were my fan. I mean, I may have seen a game on TV, you know, like it may be now. Like a kid sees something on TV for the very first time, and it's like, okay, I'm going to follow them or follow that person, you know, as my team for whenever. I really don't know. I really don't know, but I can say with 100% certainty it wasn't a bandwagon thing. I didn't even know what that was back then. So
there's nothing funnier. I'm a Washington Commanders fan, and there's nothing more interesting than living in Washington State and having people not understand why you're a Washington DC Commanders fan. So I definitely,
especially since we're pulling for the Seattle Dragons, like one would think that you'd just be all in for Seattle, but okay.
Yeah. We have a Niners, right, Cliff? You're the Niners. And then Aaron, what's your NFL team of choice?
The Bengals.
And why is that?
I used to live in Indianapolis, and I always visited Cincinnati, and I had season tickets there. And I've watched them over the years, you know, develop into a recently successful program after a lot of times not being successful. You know, it's nice to see a team rebuild themselves and remarket themselves and find a way to be successful at the highest level when they spent a lot of time, you know, in the lower end of the league.
I want to get continuing on the BC conversation here for a minute. Kyle's NFL team was the Titans. Are we all in? I want to get Tim and then Cliff will go around. The Nathan Rourke experiment in BC, the all Canadian quarterback, right? We have Michael Conner there. Is this sink or swim? Like, what do you make of this?
I think it's obviously it's great for the league. I mean, having a Canadian right out of the bat be a starting quarterback in the CFL. Hey, they would not have put him as the starting quarterback if they didn't think he was going to be able to do what he can do. So, I mean, it's not a fluke. Yes, it doesn't happen very rare, at all in CFL history, but still, I think it's another great story for the league itself. No matter how well he does tonight, it's still a great story for the league, and I'm sure the guys on TSN are going to talk this thing up. I'm sure once they do start their pregame tomorrow.
Cliffy, what do you think about the Nathan Rourke experiment?
I think it's cool. I from what we saw of him last year, I mean, like, again, it could not have been easy trying to replace a Michael Riley. And no, you're not going to supplant him so easily. But for him to step in the way he did and just play some competitive football, even beating Calgary at one point versus Bo Levi Mitchell. Like, I mean, talk about the way to set the tone, the way to really establish yourself. I mean, yes, Bo Levi got hurt, and that was probably the real reason why Calgary didn't win that game. But for what Nathan Rourke has been able to do, and to really be that flag bearer, so to speak, for the BC Lions and for Canada as well, I mean, that's pretty exciting. And then the announcement of going to the 1-2 punch of two Canadian quarterbacks, I mean, that's huge. I mean, I don't think a lot of people truly appreciate just how significant that is. And I'm sure a lot of people are even wondering, well, maybe BC should be looking for an experienced quarterback. Like, no, you know what? If you believe in these guys, if you think they've got the goods, then by all means, you got to go all in on these guys. And I think BC's doing that, and kudos to them for doing so. I know they did add Antonio Pipkin kind of like maybe it's an insurance policy, but I think with this 1-2 punch of Canadian quarterbacks, I think BC is going to be more than fine. I think they're going to turn a lot of heads with their play. And listen, this is just a win for Canadian quarterbacks in general, because let's face it, they don't get drafted too often, and they don't get a whole lot of love, or at least they haven't over the past few years. But now this is a opportunity for these guys to really make a case for the Canadian quarterback in this league.
And Edmonton has one waiting in the wings, don't they, Cliff?
Yep. So, and I'm sure that was kind of buoyed by the fact that BC's made this decision to go 1-2 with the Canadian quarterback. So maybe Chris Jones sees what they have in BC and is thinking, okay, maybe I can do that eventually. So, I mean, again, if you've got the talent, then you definitely deserve the opportunity to play. We see what Nathan Rourke's been able to do. Michael O'Connor, I think, is one of those quarterbacks that, given the opportunity as well, he could shine too. So this is pretty exciting. I think fans in BC have to be really excited at the prospect of, even though you don't have a Michael O'Reilly anymore playing for you, you got a pretty good 1-2 punch to sort of, I don't want to say replace. I mean, replace is not the word I want to use necessarily, but it's kind of a good transition as you go into the next evolution of what the BC Lions are supposed to be.
Aaron, you've been watching CFL for, like you said, 30 years. What do you make of this?
I think local connections are awesome. From a American football standpoint, if I had a team that I really loved, but the players were always coming, and then I didn't know who they were, I didn't have any connection to them, it'd be hard for me to get excited about them. In the NFL, you hear about guys all through college. They come to your NFL team, and it's very pumped up. But if you're in the CFL and your quarterback or your linebacker, your best player is American, and you maybe never heard of them, you're like, well, who's that? So I think having players from Canada become star players in the CFL is a natural fan builder. It's going to make people get excited and say, "What? There's people that I know that are playing in the league and being successful." And I think the league needs that to continue to grow.
Well, I love it. I mean, we've had on, Jim Mullen and like Daryl Davis talking all the CBA stuff and the ratio, and, next year we're moving and it's like the 49, 51% and all that. Like, I don't know if the USFL is going to be the one that sticks around. I don't know if the XFL is going to be the one that sticks around. Fan control football, we talk about all these on our show, but like, if you're going to have, at least for the next 3-4 years, kind of this American, picking up the entry level guys, leaning more into the Canadianness of it, I think is great. If you're going to be losing those entry level positions, if guys are going to want to stay and work in Birmingham or whatever, like, I would just lean into it more. I don't think there's anything to hurt. Like Aaron said, I think it builds that fan local connection. You feel more entitled to the league that way. I mean, Tim, any other thoughts on that?
No, I think it's always, first and foremost, I think it's I mean, with the CFL too, with it being kind of the niche league, I always think of the Arena League also, where it's they need to start doing things correct when it comes to players, promote the league, but in general, just promote the game itself. So I mean, I'm all for it, man. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Canadian or American. If you're a star in the team itself, they should get their props. And hey, now with the changes to the CBA and the contracts that will be a little bit guaranteed, and the increase of the regular, the lower salary that you can make in the CFL, hey, it's all for the best, though. It's going to work perfect, I think.
Cliffy, what did you make of, and I'm sure you guys covered it all in your podcast and stuff, but what did you make of the kind of the CBA talks and what they ended up hammering out when they agreed to everything?
Well, I think it's good that both sides pretty much had to make a lot of concessions. And I know there was a lot of posturing and a lot of dramatics, if you will, because I remember Tim and I were at the intra-squad game for the Alouettes when they basically had decided that the Players Association was not going to accept the deal and pretty much went back to the drawing board. And as Tim and I were sitting in the stands watching the game and then checking out the news as this happens, like, okay, what now? What can we possibly be done? Because now you're in a very difficult situation and no one's going to win from this. But they went back to the table. They went back and sorted it out. They got their ducks in a row, if you will. And at the end of the day, I'm just glad that both sides I'm sure there's a lot of compromise on both sides. I think there's a lot of things in this CBA that is going to be interesting. And it seems like it's fairly fluid in the sense that there's some stuff that if it is not working out for whatever reason for both sides, they can come back together and kind of work on it to make it a little more workable for everybody. So I think for the next 7 years, at least, we've got labor peace, at least for now. That's how it's supposed to be, is for the next 7 years.
I was going to say at least five.
Right. And again, the big thing for me though is the fact that when this current CBA is expired, it expires 30 days before training camp. So we're not going to have to go through this whole kerfuffle again. Thank goodness. So if they're going to decide to strike or lock out the players or anything like that, they've got 30 days to get their act together before training camp so that fans are not screwed over again.
Aaron, what'd you make of all the negotiation stuff here?
I think we're in sports overall. We're in an age where you have to treat people with respect on both sides. So I think, with soccer, international soccer, making a lot of points to make sure there's equal pay, I think that puts people in a spot where they start thinking about what is the compensation compared to the work people are putting in. And I think it needs to be fair on both sides. As an ownership, you can't offer more money than what you're making because then your league won't survive. But as players, you need to take care of yourself and you're investing your body. And I think you need fair compensation for that time and effort you're putting in. So it's a tough balance. And I think recently with it, like I said, international soccer, that's put the spotlight on that you need to treat people with respect on both sides if you want things to work well.
I was just shocked that it ended up getting so negative on the players a little bit. Like I felt like the fans were kind of with the players and then they canceled, they came back. I got a lot of like, well, this is our league. We pay for the tickets. The teams are owned in the communities in a lot of places. Tim, did that surprise you? I mean, you guys have been, you've been a season ticket holder for, was it 8-9 years? I can't remember. Like
25.
What do you, 25. Okay. Well, I was trying not to age you too much. I was like,
I don't care.
Okay. Well, but what did you make of all that? Because I put online, I said the players are the product. Don't forget that. And I got a lot of support and I got a lot of like, well, no, F you, buddy. Like I've paid my season tickets for 25 years. So what did you make of that?
But unfortunately with the CFL being a gate driven league, okay, that's fine. I can be a season ticket holder. You can buy tickets for every single game. You still need some other revenue in order to pay these players properly. And luckily for the CFL, they have the TSN contract, which basically, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Cliff, it pays the salaries for the entire year. That's how much these teams are getting. They're getting about $6 million per year from TSN.
By and large, yeah.
Yeah. So you need more. There needs to be more conversation. I mean, you need to prove that to these guys that you want them there to play, you want them to be safe. There are things to back them up. If they aren't, if God forbid if something happens. And I don't know if it's still in the current CBA read, because I know I read it before and I had to put something out on social about it. They did something similar to what the Arena League does, where they're offering, I think it's a community and promotion bank per team that they're able to pay these players. So I think it's for the first time in CFL history, it's in the CBA. So, hey, any more money that you can give to these guys to help promote the team, even though they were going to do it already, but as far as the whole player thing, I was never against the players in this situation. I understood the situation, and I think it wasn't really a matter of against the players, Reed. I think it was a matter of Americans versus Canadians. I think that's how it blew up to be, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think it really went down the right track, because I think it's just a bunch of people talking out of their butts. And it's you have to come together in order to play. You can't be a team that's divided. So, yeah.
It's always this American versus Canadian thing.
It was, but that's how it was meant to be on social media. And I think it was totally wrong.
Cliffy, what do you make? Because, like I think one of the times I had Jim on here talking, and he's like, CFL of any league, the players have to buy in, right? Like you said, they're the ones going out in the community. They're the ones doing the events. They're the one talking with the fans on social. Like, so it's like, it's different than the NFL, where it's just going to sell it. I mean, they come out, play, they'll sell themselves. They don't have to do anything. Did you think enough damage was done, or do you think we're at a good spot now with the players where they feel like, okay, I'm good now, I'm being compensated, let's go play?
I definitely think they're in a good spot. I think fans have been very forgiving, despite some of the vitriol I'd seen online when all of this went down. I think at the end of the day, people do want to support the players. They do want the players to get their fair share. They want them to know that the players are going to be taken care of, because let's face it, you're buying tickets to watch the players, not the owners, not the general managers, not the coaches. You're there to see the players. You want to make sure the players are well taken care of. And I think with this contract, this new CBA, I think they are for the most part. And I think the fans, they just want to see football. They want to see their players play. And it's so funny how they went from, oh, F these guys, they're being totally unrealistic to, okay, deal signed, all's forgiven. Let's move on. Let's play some football. And that's CFL fandom for you folks. I mean, that's just the way people are when it comes to this league. They're just so passionate. They want to see their football so bad. They want to cheer their stars on, and now they've got the opportunity to do so. So it's almost like a distant memory at this point, even though it was like not even a month ago.
I'm so sorry, eh?
Yeah.
Aaron, any other thoughts on the CBA? We can transition to some other storylines here coming into the season. Any other thoughts on this?
No, I think it did help that the strike didn't last very long. I think that helped a lot for the fan base. If extended work stoppage would really hurt the momentum. But if they make it quick and wrap it up, I think that's really helpful for the fans. And I need to go, but go Tiger Cats.
No worries. We appreciate Aaron hopping on. I'll remove you from the stream. Thanks again. Aaron writes for CFL News Hub. He'll be covering the Tiger Cats all season. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Tim, other kind of off-season storylines, and guys, I posted the thing. If people want to call in, sometimes people get real call happy, sometimes they don't. But if you have questions, happy to take them in the text. If you want to call in, happy to take a call. Tim, other storylines heading into the season that you're tracking? I mean, I think the Edmonton quarterback situation is one, right? We have like the highest paid receiver in the world, and we don't know who is throwing to him. Let's chew on that in a second. But any other comments or storylines behind
the rules? There are a lot of rule changes. I mean, tonight we will get our real first look about how with the new hash marks, if it will really make any difference. That and and I guess we could say, Cliff, the change back to the 15-yard penalties for no yards, because they used to be 15 yards until they added a 5-yard. So for me, those are the two things that I'm looking forward to. I don't think they're going to be using the two quarterbacks at one time on the field. It's too early in the season. I don't think they're going to. I don't think Coach Kahari is going to tip his hat for this type of thing. So, but it should be fun.
Cliff, yeah, what do you make of the rules? And then I have a take.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Like, to me, I felt like the past 2 seasons, I can understand why people was thinking that scoring was down, but let's not forget, going through a pandemic, going through a shortened season, a lot of things had changed, like with players themselves and how they perform. And I thought it was just kind of like a blip on the radar kind of thing. Like, I didn't think there was a real major need to make some of these changes, but you know what? If it does help open things up, if it does help make for a more entertaining product, then I think it's definitely worth checking out. Beautiful thing is, if it doesn't work, you go back to what worked before. So, try it out, see if it works, because you know what? You want to get people interested. You want to get people excited about football. And as I said, the diehards are going to be here, win, lose, or draw. And as long as we're not talking about switching to 4 downs, because yeah, people will still watch no matter what. I'm pretty sure of that. But at the same time, it's one of those things that makes the CFL uniquely Canadian is the 3 downs, the 110-yard field, all that jazz. Like, that's what people come to see. That's what people come to expect. And it just makes for such an entertaining game. And I want to see whatever you can do to make this game even more entertaining. And I'm not saying that scoring is necessarily entertaining, because I do love a good defense, but I just want to see good, honest, hard-nosed football. And I think you're going to see that this year. And I don't know if the rules are going to make or break it necessarily, but I just want to see like just how the players react to this. And if it means better football as a result, like I said, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's weird. So this hash mark thing, and I guess this is a good time. Yeah, well, Sam Shea saying, smash that like button. I appreciate that. That's a Mark Perry thing. Have our big interview with Randy Ambrosi coming out tomorrow. We just plug that. Tim, I did mean it when I said I had the biggest guest coming on this week, because technically there's 2 of you guys. So you are technically the biggest guest I've ever had on the show. But we have our big Randy Ambrosi, Justin Dunk is big mad, right? Why are they talking to the XFL podcast? But, Randy's big thing right now is our field is so big. We have like 700 square feet per player, right? And this big, massive field. And but then we're taking the hash marks and we're like we're making the field. It's like we're shrinking the field in the field, right? Does it feel, I'm not a football X's and O's guy, but does it feel that way?
They're allowing it to be more space on either of the wide sides. they're just bringing him closer into the together itself. So it'll open things up, whether it be for passing or for the running game. So, and hey, as we saw in the preseason score, I love Cliff and I were talking about this the other night on the podcast. We loved the point that the total points that were scored in each of the games, whether it was a blowout or not, it's preseason, but still scoring seemed to be up slightly than what it was over the full 14 game season last year. Any changes? Again, like Cliffy said, it doesn't work, switch it back.
Max says we've officially hit 2,000 subscribers. That's exciting. I've been working at that for the last 4 months, getting ready. Flew to Birmingham. Thought we would really hit that when we paid thousands of dollars to fly to Birmingham. Who was it? Edmonton was it Calgary that they got blown out by so bad in the preseason? Cliffy, who was it that Edmond lost to last week that got Chris Jones all mad?
It was Calgary.
What do you make of that? And preseason throw it away, or is Chris Jones big mad too?
Well, and that's the thing with Chris Jones is he's so passionate, and he expects so much out of his players, and to only put up 7 points, even if it's against Calgary, and not to mention this was a home game where they had, I think, 30,000 plus tickets sold.
Ukrainian night.
That's right. So they really wanted to put on a show for the fans, and 7 points is not a show. So I can understand why Jonesy would be just a little bit ticked off about that. So I mean, and also too, with it being the second preseason game, that's pretty much your dress rehearsal. That's more or less what you're going to be presenting to everybody when the season starts. So to come in and turn in a lousy effort like that, I from what I know about Chris Jones, that's just unacceptable in his eyes. So I'm actually surprised more heads didn't roll as a result of that.
Yeah, what do you say? Cut day is going to be really easier now. I'm like, oh my God. But I mean, you had Victor Cui out there painting the field. I mean, we had Victor out there with the spray. I mean, they whether that's fake news or not, that was a tremendous piece of social media. Victor Cui painting the end zones.
Absolutely. And it's such an interesting dichotomy seeing someone like Victor Cui, who is all about fan interaction and, trying to engage people. And I'm not saying that Chris Jones doesn't engage people, but his style of coaching and his sort of old school ways just almost seems like a bit of a styles clash, if you will. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to work out. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where opposites really do attract, because I look at what Victor Cui's done, and it's phenomenal. The people of Edmonton have to be really excited as to what's going to be happening when it comes to at least the off the field product. The on field product, I mean, Chris Jones, love him or hate him, he knows how to win. He knows how to get the most out of players, and he knows how to put together exciting football teams. So it's going to take some time. If he's in it for the long haul, and he claims that he is, because he does have a reputation of sticking somewhere for 1 or 2 years and then bouncing out of there. So if he's serious about wanting to stick it out in Edmonton and really help develop and grow that franchise, then they've got a lot to be excited about. But if he ducks out after, this season or next season for yet another opportunity, then you're kind of back at square one. In which case, then you have Geroy Simon, former BC Lion, as the assistant GM. He can help steady the ship, and he's been also too looking for an opportunity to run a franchise. So that could actually work out in his favor if Chris Jones decides to get out of town. But all things said, I think Edmonton is going to be a team that's really going to be interesting to look at both on and off the field in 2022.
Are you guys excited? Speaking of Edmonton here, we have Coach Elizondo, right? Failure of a coach, not really, but just had a rough time in Edmonton. He's going to be, they announced today, the OC under Hines Ward. I think Hines is going to be in Houston. I can't remember. We have all the rumored where all the coaches are going to be. What do you think of Jamie Elizondo as the OC with head coach Hines Ward in the XFL?
That might end up working out better for him. It's funny. There's so many coordinators in this league are outstanding, and a lot of people are clamoring for them to get a head coaching job, and then they get the head coaching job and it just doesn't quite work out, because there's a huge difference between being an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator versus being a head coach. Not everybody can be a head coach in this league. You got to be a special kind of person to be able to do that, and I think Elizondo was eager for that chance. He ran some pretty amazing offenses in Ottawa. People were really excited about him going to the XFL with Mark Trestman, and he's developed a very good reputation at getting the most out of players. But when it came time for him to run his own show, didn't quite work out as well as what he hoped it would. So maybe now he's kind of had to take a step back a little bit. Maybe now going into the XFL as an OC, he can get back to what he does best, which is, as I said, create some pretty fantastic offenses. And maybe this is how he reinvents himself.
See, so we already have listener Max. Heinz Ward's going to be in San Antonio. Wade Phillips is news. I thought Reggie Barlow was in. I thought one of those guys was in. I have a question from Kyle. We'll go Tim and then Cliffy. What do you guys think about the XFL? I mean, we cover everything on the show. We have the leaked XFL cities. We're talking tomorrow on the show, along with our big Randy Ambrosi interview. Plug that again. What do you think of the XFL there, Tim?
You know, it's funny. I was talking about this on another podcast the other night. You're going to have the XFL basically going up against the USFL. And I don't think we've ever seen two highly promoted, money-backed leagues going up against each other. This is the first. Players, man. You know what? It's all going to come for the XFL and the Rock and the entire organization there. It's going to come down to how much they're going to pay these players. You know, because yes, there are a ton of players in the U.S. when it comes to who you can choose from to fill your rosters. But you want the quality guys too, but you also have to keep them. Same thing with, similar to the CFL. You got to be able to keep them. So, I mean, I remember watching the original XFL. With all honesty, later on in life, I had to choose the sports that I want to watch. So, as an example, I watched the very first game of the USFL. Have I watched another game this year? No, I haven't. But I will give the XFL a shot too, because it was good. It was pretty good football before it was canceled by the COVID.
Cliffy, what do you make of all this?
To me, I want to see football players get their shot. Whether it's in the CFL, XFL, USFL, everybody deserves to have their opportunity to show what they can do. And this just means more jobs for football players, more opportunities for coaches to develop and grow this game. Am I worried that some of the good players of the CFL are going to go to the XFL? Yeah, that's always a possibility. It happened before. There were a couple players that did go from CFL to XFL, and that's just the nature of the business. I mean, you go where the money is. You go where the opportunity is. Like if you're not working out in Montreal or Toronto or BC, and you have an opportunity to go and try out for this league and maybe find your niche, and you're playing closer to home as well. Yeah, I definitely see the appeal of that. I definitely think a lot of players may consider that, but I think it really just comes down to opportunity. Like if you're not getting what you're looking for in the Canadian Football League, yeah, you're going to look elsewhere. You're going to look at these other two leagues and think, okay, maybe this is my opportunity to show what I can do and maybe get that opportunity to go to the NFL. Because that's what everybody in all of these leagues is looking for, is that opportunity to go to the big show. Whether or not they do it through the Canadian Football League or otherwise, that's what a lot of these guys are looking at. At the end of the day, though, a lot of CFL players, they're very happy where they are. They've carved out a very nice career in the Canadian Football League. They've maybe found their wife through the Canadian Football League. They're growing families. They're setting up roots in these Canadian communities. Are they willing to risk all of that for a maybe with the XFL? I think this time it's going to work for the XFL. I think they've got with Dwayne Johnson and his company backing things up. I think that the opportunity for success is absolutely there. But is it still going to be held up standard wise against the NFL? And I think that's going to be a big key right there. And then people are going to be asking, are these guys good enough to play in the NFL? Because they do that with the CFL too. Like they ask, okay, yeah, these are very good football players, but are they NFL good? Which to me is a weird standard to hold up to, because I think it's like apples and oranges myself. But to me, I think the best players are going to play where they feel comfortable and where they have the opportunity goes. And if it's here in Canada, great. If they have to go back down south to make that opportunity happen, so be it. That's football for you.
I got a question here from Brandosaurus. We'll start with Tim and then we'll go Cliffy. If Vernon can avoid injury this year, what are your predictions for him statistically? He's all in on this. 4,500 passing, 30 TDs, 15 rushing, 400 yards, 10 TDs. This is, this is like, that would be baller territory, right? Can you read this comment?
That would be MOP level type of numbers. You know what? There's no secret that Cliff and I know Vernon. and we have supported his career since he's been in Montreal. And we want
Day
nothing
one.
we want nothing for the best for Vernon. Let's get through game one. We know we went through a lot with his injury. It's technically his first regular season game back since Canadian Thanksgiving, since his injury. So I would love to see him ball out. It would just show that Vernon is the quarterback that we thought he was, that everybody think. Even Milt Stiegel, I think he had a short segment on TSN. All the props to VA, all the props. Hey, if it needs where he needed to change his jersey number to number 3 and he can ball out all season, I'll take it. I'll take it every day of the week. Here, you can have my number 8 jersey. I'll take a number 3 any day.
Cliffy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Vernon has the tools to be a superstar in this league. We've known this for a long time. He's been through the fire. He's been through the mill as far as his CFL career goes, and finally got that opportunity to really show what he can do in 2019. And he turned a lot of heads. He got a lot of people excited. And I think a lot of people were expecting him to carry that momentum into 2021. And for the most part, he did. But there was also a lot of times where he didn't quite look like that outstanding quarterback. And immediately people just turned back on him. And I couldn't understand that. Like, everybody makes mistakes. The guy's human. He's still learning how to be a superstar as far as I'm concerned. Like, we know he's a talented football player. Without question, he is. He makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's how he gets through them. And I think for the most part, he had done a pretty good job of accepting responsibility for his mistakes and vowing to do better. And, there's times where he'd have like a lousy game, come back to the next game, light it up again. That's just the kind of quarterback he's been. He's been consistent and at times inconsistent. And I think he realizes his shortcomings. And I want to believe that in this time off that he's had a chance to learn and grow and evolve as a quarterback as well. And I think tonight will be the start of that. I think you're going to see, when I say a different Vernon Adams, not different in the sense of how he plays the football game, but just how he sees things and how he reacts when adversity hits. Like, I expect him to fully grow and realize just how important he is to this football team and how important he is to this league even. I expect him to really, truly become a superstar this year. I don't know if he'll put up those monster numbers that Brandon Soros was talking about. That'd be awesome if he did. Don't get me wrong. I'd be thrilled if he pulled up those kind of numbers. But my goodness, there's no reason why Vernon Adams cannot be considered one of those top-tier quarterbacks when it's all said and done this year. I think he truly does have the talent. He's got the weapons at his disposal. He's got great coaching behind him. He's got a whole city behind him as well. Like, he's shown nothing but love to the city of Montreal, and I think it's been returned back to him. As far as I'm concerned, this is his opportunity, and I think he realizes that, and he's going to take every opportunity to make himself heard and make his voice one of those that really, truly rings out in the Canadian Football League.
Brandon Source is pretty much in line with 2019, so we'll see. He's fact checking here. I want to get back to the Edmonton thing here. The quarterback situation, right? We have Taylor Cornelius, right, the XFL guy. Nick Arbuckle. We signed Kenny Lawler for like all the money in the world, and then we're still trying to figure out. Tim, what do you make of this quarterback dilemma with Chris Jones?
I should ask Chris Jones if he thinks that there's a quarterback dilemma. It's funny. On a lot of the podcasts and social media that I've seen from Edmonton, I don't think they really consider it a quarterback controversy in any way, because I think for them, it's a brand new beginning. And I'm guessing that most fans are looking at it as, okay, we know how poor we've been for the past couple of years. We got a new head coach. Let's, Chris Jones will do the best what he can for this team and make sure that they are playing well. But I really don't think, I can't really think of any city, even though the media may talk about a quarterback controversy in Montreal or whatever. But for Edmonton, I don't think there really is much of a quarterback controversy. Let's just see how they do on the field.
So then, who's the quarterback? Is it Arbuckle?
100% it's Arbuckle. And it's so funny because when he was brought into Edmonton last season, like, they basically kept him under wraps. Like, they let him practice, but he never got a chance to actually start. Like, this is going to be his first time as the man, so to speak, in Edmonton. It's going to be really interesting to see, because a lot of people really don't believe that he's a Chris Jones quarterback. And to me, I think, listen, this is a talented guy. I think he is very much a quarterback that, given the right opportunity, can make a lot of noise in this league. But for some reason, people just don't seem to think that Chris Jones is all in on him. And, the fact that he was courting JT Barrett and Cardale Jones to come up to Edmonton, and that didn't quite work out. And yeah, they drafted Trey Ford in the CFL draft this year. So
who they convinced to bring him. He convinced to come up to Edmonton instead of going to a camp.
Yep. So, and quite frankly, I think if you let Nick Arbuckle do his thing, you saw what he was able to do when he was a Calgary Stampeder. I would love to have a Nick Bar. I was secretly hoping that the Alouettes would find a way, with all the wheeling and dealing that they've done with Edmonton over the past year, find a way to bring in Nick Arbuckle. I mean, if I would not have said no to a Trevor Harris for Nick Arbuckle deal. I think that could have benefited both teams, quite frankly, but it wasn't meant to be. So I guess now Nick Arbuckle's the man in Edmonton, and I don't think Edmonton fans are going to be disappointed with his play this year. I really don't.
The Cardale Jones thing was the most insane thing I've ever heard. That it's like, we're going to bring in 29-year-old Cardale Jones, basically lost his starting job in the XFL mid-season. And they're like, we are not going with you. We're going to go with Tyree Jackson, who was a tight end converted, or I guess he was a quarterback that converted to tight end. But he lost his job in the season. We're going to bring him in, try him out. But I guess they don't care, right? They just bring him into camp and cut him, right? Is that a way to embarrass Americans, Tim?
No, I think it's no. Hey, they've got to try quarterbacks to get them somewhere else, whether they're camp fodder or not. I mean, camp fodder happens even in the NFL. I mean, it happens in any league during the preseason and in camp. But
let's not forget too that Edmonton also brought in a lot of name players for in the league, like guys like Manny Arsenault, who did end up making the team. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah.
He's Bowman, who was retired
from indoor football. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of names that people are like, what the heck is Chris Jones doing bringing this guy in? And including JT Barrett and Cardale Jones. Like, why are you wasting your time with these guys when you've already got some pretty talented guys on your team that just need the opportunity? And was it a smoke screen? Was it just to get people talking about the Elks? Maybe. And if that's the case, well, it worked like a charm, because people were really wondering, what the heck is he thinking with some of these moves?
I just think people like to take pot shots against the XFL. I mean, I've got my Rosh sign here. Rosh gave me personally in Hamilton. But I think that they're like, let's bring in the XFL guy. Let's blow him up. Fan Control Football did the same thing this year. They brought in Brandon Silvers and just absolutely lit him up. He got sacked so bad, he left the game and never played another snap in the league. So, I mean, I think there's something to be said. We don't need the XFL guys. I could see Chris Jones being I don't do the Rod Peterson, Chris Jones impression, but I could see him bringing them in just to let's show these guys that we've got the Canadian talent here just fine.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it really was just a matter of trying to show up people, which kind of a weird flex when you think about it. But I would expect nothing less from Chris Jones. That's how he rolls.
I think most CFL teams have had their fair share of bringing in names, and they've gone absolutely nowhere. I mean, and the Alouettes are up on that list themselves. So.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk Rough Riders. I wanted to, speaking of Chris Jones and all that, Cody Fajardo, I've seen the power rankings, right? Winnipeg, #1, right? Hamilton's high up there. People seem really high on the Rough Riders too, very low on BC, very low on Edmonton. Where do you guys think about, we'll start with, I guess, Tim, what do you think of the Rough Riders in the power rankings this season?
Well, power rankings right now, can you really take any stock in what the current power rankings are? I mean, they're preseason power rankings based off of teams that are currently on paper.
Well, we gotta talk about something. So what do you think?
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, I mean, it's when it comes to, the rider organization has gone from what it was in the past to just this horrid organization to what it is now. And it's every year it is a Grey Cup contender. Every year it's a Grey Cup contender. Much to my chagrin, they're always a Grey Cup contender. Same thing in Calgary. But you know what? They're always going to be in this thing. Cody Fajardo has been a very nice surprise, and he's made a very good name for himself in the CFL. That's the thing. Once you become and show what you can do in the CFL, you can show you can lead a team even into the playoffs or even into a Eastern or Western final. You're good. You're solid. They'll be fine. Riders, I've not even thought about the West, actually. Riders, I think, will it'll either be a 1-2 spot, I think, for for the Riders in 2022. But right now, you have Winnipeg is the team to beat until they're not.
What do you think, Cliffy?
I mean, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they will live and die by Cody Fajardo. I mean, that's just how they've set it up. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like I put him in the same category as I would like a Vernon Adams or a Dane Evans out in Hamilton, as far as a quarterback who has a lot of talent that people can easily get behind, but it feels like they constantly have to prove themselves. But it's weird because I do find Fajardo, though, seems to get a lot of free passes, mostly from the Saskatchewan media and from their fan base, because he's made a lot of mistakes, too. He hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire either when it comes to the quarterback position. But somehow Vernon gets dragged. Bo Levi gets dragged. Somehow Fajardo, well, they find some sort of excuse for him. And maybe that's just the way Saskatchewan is just they find a way to pardon their quarterback regardless of their faults. But realistically, the success of the Saskatchewan Roughriders is going to come at the hands of Cody Fajardo. And this team is always meant to be competitive, and especially too in a Grey Cup year, they've had to load up. They've had to really be very intelligent with a lot of their moves. And I fully expect them to be in the mix this year. I think that this is a team that has the opportunity to be competitive. It's always tough especially when Winnipeg, as I said, is the standard bearer of this whole league, not just out in the West, but Saskatchewan's going to be in tough, but come playoff time, I wouldn't be surprised to see them there yet again.
Sprinkle the Jesus, right?
Yeah, well, the Jesus sprinkles.
If anyone's got lockdown on Cody, like I don't know if you guys anyone listen, if you talk to Cody, he needs to unblock us on Twitter. That is our goal. I worked all of last season. I didn't even tag him because like I'll tag people, like I'll go at 3 down or whatever. I didn't even tag him. I shared the article about him not using chicken McNuggets as opposed to swear words, and I was like, "This explains everything." But I didn't even tag him in it, and then he blocked me.
Well, I got blocked too, and I've never once interacted with him. I've never retweeted anything about him. Like I think the only thing I've ever once even commented on was one time when the Riders were playing in Montreal, and supposedly he's not a big fan of smoked meat, which is huge in Montreal. And all I ever said was, well, maybe he just got some like bad smoked meat, like maybe he got like a gas station smoked meat or something like that. Like that's probably the worst thing I may have ever said about Cody Fajardo. But then lo and behold,
you're blocked too.
I'm blocked. Like,
Tim, are you blocked? Are you blocked?
I'm not following him, so I don't know. Maybe I am. It's a conspiracy. I've been blocked by other people recently into the CFL, but it was like Cliff has too, besides Cody. But it's
some people don't like the truth, and okay, like, but again, I've never gone out of my way to disparage Cody Fajardo. Like, I don't care enough about him that much. Maybe that's why I got blocked.
I'd like to talk to him. I think the guy is very interesting. I did a fake. Cody's on Book Cameo. I don't know if you guys ever know that, and you can like pay to do.
Yeah.
And we paid and had Cody do a message, and then I edited it to make it sound like he was talking about the Markcast. It was great fun. I really thought that would get him like on our good side, and it didn't do anything. So. You guys said you haven't thought about the West, right? So if we're ranking the West, right, Winnipeg up there, Edmonton, do you give Edmonton or BC the 5 spot?
I'd probably say Edmonton, but by a very slim margin.
Yeah, by 1 or 2 wins, I would say. But hey, who knows? It's who knows? Who knows? The West is always weird. I mean, Cliff's already. We're looking at the East and the potential of what the East could do this year, and a potential of a CFL first with an East crossover. So it's who knows?
But but you would go Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Calgary, then BC, then Edmonton.
Yeah, I think in that order, it's very close to that. Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I said, until I say otherwise about Winnipeg, but it's I'll probably go. I'd probably go Winnipeg, Calgary, Saskatchewan, BC, Edmonton.
People in the chat, I want to see your power rankings. So do your West power rankings and then your East. On the East, right? I mean, do you do Toronto or Hamilton in there?
Hamilton.
Hamilton won with a bullet?
Well, to me right now, it's every team with an asterisk. So, so I would probably go. I'd probably go Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, but 2 through 4 in the East this year is going to be very, very close.
Cliffy, is Mazzoli the prince that was promised in Ottawa?
I guess we'll see. I think they've certainly hyped him up to be the next big thing in Ottawa. So maybe this is the opportunity he needed, because let's face it, like going up against Dane Evans, I wouldn't say he faltered necessarily, but it was going to be so tough because they're pretty much a 1A, 1B combination, and something had to give. Like one of those guys had to become the man in Hamilton, which meant one of them had to be shown the door. And lo and behold, I think he saw that he had the opportunity to become something special in Ottawa, taking a chance, because obviously Ottawa had to make some wholesale changes after like 2 years of 3-win football. Something had to change. And sure enough, a lot of things changed in Ottawa. And I think Mazzoli saw this as an opportunity to reinvent himself and to really step up and sort of get out of the shadow of being in Hamilton, because as long as he was in Hamilton, people were going to be comparing him to Dane Evans and, what he did in the Grey Cup or what he didn't do in the Grey Cup. So there was kind of that kind of hanging overhead. Like now this is an opportunity for him to be the new guy and to be the man. Like right now he's pretty much the undisputed starter in Ottawa, with Caleb Evans, I think, as a close second. But I mean, this is definitely Mazzoli's team, and he's going to be given every opportunity to shine. And I got to believe that he's going to make every opportunity that he gets count this year.
Tim, if you had to pick it, Tim's starting the football team here. You could either have Dane Evans as your starting quarterback, or you could have Jeremiah Mazzoli as your starting quarterback. Who would you take?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. You know what? I'll go with Mazzoli. I think he was able to, from what I saw of him, I think he was able to do more. He was able to lead the team more than he was, I think, with Evans. But yeah, I'd pick Mazzoli.
What do you think, Cliffy?
I would have gone on the Dane train, because let's face it, Dane Evans was in both of those Grey Cup games. Like he got the Tiger Cats to the Grey Cup in 2019, and he played pretty well leading up into the Grey Cup as well. And if he didn't go down to injury, maybe Hamilton actually does pull off the win, and Mazzoli definitely would have been shown the door. He probably would have been shown the door regardless. But honestly, I think if I were to choose between the two, I would have been going with Dane Evans 100%.
So is Dane Evans kind of like the Carson Wentz, right? And then we have Mazzoli as the Nick Foles with the Eagles. And now the reason why I bring this up is I'm a Washington Commanders fan, and now Carson Wentz is my quarterback this season, and I could not be less happy about it. But I love Dane Evans, so maybe I feel better now if he's like the Carson Wentz in the situation. Does that make sense? Did you follow that logic at all?
Yeah, to me, I probably would have gone just based on, if you're going based strictly on success alone, I probably would have considered Dane Evans to be more the Nick Foles type, because he got the wins, which is what Nick Foles did for the Eagles. He got the wins. And Carson Wentz, I mean, that's, oh boy, good luck, man. That's all I gotta say.
Tim, are you okay there? Tim had an earthquake.
Dealing with my cat.
Oh, that's okay. We're good. Yeah, our dog's locked out. Final thoughts here. We'll go maybe 10 minutes. We'll get out of here. If anyone wants to hop on, happy to take calls. Like I said, sometimes people are really call happy. Sometimes people aren't. We'll have our big show coming up tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific. Like I said, we got Ambrosi coming on. Lots of XFL stuff. We have Greg Meskel, the lead play-by-play for Fan Control Football. They have their championship game this weekend. And then we have why am I blanking on his name? Jovan Alford coming on. We're talking USFL as well. So all your CFL, XFL, Fan Control Football, and USFL stuff tomorrow. I've lived in front of this computer all day. This is all I've done today. It's talk all football.
So many ties in FCF, by the way, to the Arena League. So many ties. It's crazy.
I live, and I wanted to tell Greg this, because I really put drew my line in the sand, because USFL and FCF kind of kicked off the same week. And I was like, I'm going to do USFL. I think that's going to be the better thing. Well, now FCF, they're the one that reached out to us. They wanted to have Greg come on. They had asked us to come out and do live stuff at their games. USFL wants nothing to do with us. So I think maybe I picked the wrong thing. In an alternate world in sliding doors, maybe I should have taken the FCF train.
Dude, you've had it with the XFL going, and I like what you guys have done. You've had to branch out to do everything. You have to give, you got to give, time for everyone. So I'm glad you did. I mean, how else do people learn about some of these other leagues? I was asked the other day, how do you watch the FCF? Well, yes, they are on Twitch, but it's more than just Twitch for the FCF.
Yeah, it's on all of them. Cliffy, any other storylines in the East we're tracking? I mean, Ottawa rebuild, right? We've talked about Montreal at the beginning of the show. Hamilton looking to kind of make it back there with Dane. I had a question. The McLeod Bethel Thompson of it all. I've seen all these locker room videos where he's like staring men in the face and like, we are family. Like, we're going through this together. Like, are we all in on the McLeod train here in 2022?
I think so, but I think also too, like you got to look at what Chad Kelly's done. Like he's coming into this league with like all kinds of piss and vinegar, and you can tell he's really excited at the opportunity to be that superstar as well. But for that to happen, he's got to outplay McLeod Bethel Thompson, who, let's face it, when he's on, he is on. Like he proved himself to be a leader over the past couple of seasons. Like he really is that quarterback that Toronto had been looking for a long, long time. But now you got Chad Kelly coming in that he wants to establish himself as well. Like it's all about redemption for him. Like he wants to prove that, yes, he still is a very good quarterback. So I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic when it comes to the Toronto Argonauts this year. I think they've got a lot to prove. They're kind of in a weird situation. Like if you put that team in any other Canadian city, they'd be the darlings of the league. Like a lot people would be all over them, really excited for them because they're playing in Toronto, where, I mean, you got to be a diehard Argos fan to really care about them. Like your casual Toronto person is kind of like, when it comes to the Argos, which is unfortunate, really, because I mean, they're a very good football team. Like they're very well put together, very well coached. I mean, they've got a sound structure with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. So, I mean, they can just kind of take it upon themselves to do just that much more, just raise themselves just a little bit more as far as relevancy goes in the city of Toronto itself. But when you're going up against like the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, Toronto FC, it's easy to get very much easy to get lost in the shuffle. And it's unfortunate because I think Toronto, given the right opportunity, given the right, playing field, so to speak, I think they could be major players in the Canadian Football League, both on and off the field. But because they're in Toronto, it almost feels like they kind of hamstring themselves. And I just wish I knew what they could do to improve themselves in the eyes of like the greater Toronto area. And I just wish I knew what I could do to help fans realize, hey, you got a pretty exciting football team. No, it's not NFL, but you know what? It's still entertaining football. It's still competitive and fun football. You can still go to BMO Field and see a really good football game.
This is our Royal Rumble. We have our Jim Ross. By God, that's Andrew Murray's music. We have Andrew Murray of CFL News Hub doing the drop in here. I appreciate Andrew's coming home late from work. Andrew, what do you think of the Chad Kelly Toronto thing? And has any player ever been more excited to play in the CFL ever than Chad Kelly?
More excited? I can't seem to remember a name off the top of my head, but like this is fascinating to me, honestly, that he would have such a meteoric rise and such a favor with Ryan Dinwiddie. I'm kind of surprised that he would be able to come up so quickly. Honestly, I thought he would be on the bench for most of his first year, maybe going into his second year, but it seems to me that he has a legitimate shot at getting some actual playing time with the roster, especially now that there's actually like a full 18-game schedule and he actually has time to kind of come in and be able to do his thing. Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised. I didn't expect this from him. I really didn't see this coming. Now, maybe I'm not as in tune to like some of the reporting on his skill sets. I know he's had a lot of good reports coming out of camp, but just physically looking at Chad Kelly and knowing and seeing him play in the preseason in the NFL, seeing him playing at Ole Miss, I didn't really see much of this, to be honest.
Tim, what do you make of the Chad Kelly?
With all honesty, don't. I don't, because you know what? I guess it's funny. I preach this type of thing where it's like, I feel you should actually get out of your bubble of where your team is located. And unfortunately, I'm that bad CFL fan who hasn't, and I'm stuck in my Montreal bubble. So when they come to town, I hate them. When they leave, especially if we beat them, I wave goodbye. So I mean, it's
That's okay. I think I'm going to refer to him as the Chad Kelly now. I think that suits him, the Chad Kelly. Andrew writes for CFL News Hub, XFL, all the news hubs. We have a couple comments here we'll go to. What do you make of the game tonight? Montreal, Calgary, who do you take? And Tim and Cliffy, you guys stay on if you want to head off. I don't want to hold you guys up if you got to get your beers and stuff before the game. But Andrew, what do you think of the matchup?
Oddly enough, I don't know if I want to use the word pivotal, but it feels really important for a couple of reasons for both teams. I think for one, for Montreal, for them to get off to a good start, being able to have success with Vernon Adams Jr. Maybe they're going to have some turmoil down as the season goes if they don't start winning. What does that mean for the coaching staff? Does Trevor Harris come in? There's kind of a lot of tumultuous sort of events going on there. And then as far as Calgary, I mean, really the big question is, does Bo Levi Mitchell have anything left in his arm? Like, is his arm getting weaker? Is he going to succumb to the injuries that he had last year? Is Jake Mayer going to come in and replace him? Like, there's a lot of questions definitely in the quarterbacks rooms for both teams, but also just in terms of like, what kinds of seasons are they both going to have? And so it feels really important, even though it's just game 1 of 18. It feels like this almost can be kind of dictating what are we going to see the first half, at least for the first half of the season for two of them.
I have a question here I'm going to put up. Tim and Cliffy, I don't want you to get too triggered by this question, okay? It's going to be coming up here. Hawaiian Punch, do you think Khari Jones last the whole season, or would he be the favorite to be the first head coach fired? Where does that come from? Tim is shaking his head.
Talking heads. It's coming from talking heads. I understand the reasoning behind it. I get it. Cliff actually went over it quite a bit over on our podcast this week, where you talk about a quarterback is a coach's quarterback. Well, Kahari's quarterback is Vernon Adams. Danny Machoch's quarterback, so it seems, is Trevor Harris. So it seems. So you get rid of one domino, then you can insert your other one of the guy that you want to start. So Khari has done a bang up job. I mean, yes, he went 7-7 last year. I get that. But look what he did he came in the strangest circumstances in 2019, being named the head coach basically the week the season was supposed to start. And look what he did for this team. He reinvigorated the city for football, which we needed it, because football in Montreal up to that point was just it was pathetic. You know, Percival Molson Stadium was not what it used to be. It hadn't been what it was in the past. You know what? If he gets fired, he gets fired. I understand that. But give Coach Khari the choice. Will he be the first one? Starts off 0-5? Okay, I can understand it. Owls won't start off 0-5. Owls will not start off in 0-5. Hey, mark it down. But
that's good. I knew it would get you triggered. Cliffy, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think again, this whole talk of Khari being on the hot seat when it comes to his coaching career. I mean, I understand why a lot of people feel the way they feel, but I mean, like Tim said, you gotta let Khari do his thing. You gotta let him work. Last year he was hit with all kinds of injuries and he had all kinds of issues. You know, like I think a lot of his play calling was a little bit conservative, but it may just been due to the fact that he didn't have the horses that he started off the season with, because the first part of the season, the Alouettes were leading in so many offensive categories. Like, he had everything down pat. Like, you don't just forget how to coach, as far as I'm concerned. I think a lot of his missteps, if you will, came as a result of the fact that a lot of his stars were injured and he had to kind of scramble, and maybe they just didn't quite have the depth that they thought they had. And even bringing in a Trevor Harris that a lot of people thought would be the solution, like that would be the key to keeping the Alouettes relevant, and it didn't quite work out the way that they hoped it would. Now this year, you've got this potential tempest in a teapot when it comes to Vernon Adams. Like, if he starts to falter, if he starts playing poorly, you throw Harris in there, and if he's not the answer too, then what do? Then it all just comes back on you. Like, well, then you must be a lousy coach if you can't make either of these superstars work. So it's kind of a weird situation. I almost feel like Khari has to go 18-0 to keep his job, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think let the man do his work. you know what kind of a coach he is. You know, as Tim said, he's helped with his help. He's been able to reinvigorate football in the city of Montreal and get people excited about the Alouettes. Let him do his thing. Let him do what he does best. You know, with Vernon Adams at the helm, as long as everybody stays healthy, everybody does their job, this team is going to be more than fine. If they'll win matches, they'll lose matches. We expect that out of this team. I'm expecting exciting football. I'm expecting competitive football. And if Kahari can bring that, then he should definitely not be considered as the first fireable coach in this league.
Final question here for Andrew. We'll let everyone get out of here. My blather's about it. It's max, and we'll be able to reset here before the game. This is going to plug too. We have our big Randy Ambrosi, Big Mad interview tomorrow. Everyone,
I hear you got Randy Ambrosi tomorrow.
Gotta find the show. He addresses Larry Tannenbaum's comments, MLSE being unhappy. Andrew, what do you make of MLSE and the Argonauts and all this stuff, the upsetness with Larry Tannenbaum, and then obviously we'll get the commissioner's thoughts tomorrow on the show.
I mean, at what point do they just tell the Argonauts, look, we've had enough. We're going to sell you. We're going for someone else. Like, I'm sorry, this has gotten to be ridiculous. If they don't seem to be so infatuated with the direction that the CFL is going with all the community owners and some of the other ownership groups, I don't understand why they don't just drop and basically go somewhere else as far as like getting another team or investing in another squad. I'm not sure, besides the Argos acting as supposedly, I guess, as a tax write-off for them, it doesn't seem like they're going to have much influence, or as much influence as maybe they think they're going to have in the CFL based on the trajectory of how the owners think. I mean, they're basically taking the wrong girl to the wrong dance, and I just wonder if they should just be going to a completely different school altogether. Like, this is kind of, I'm a little, at this point, I just think they need to sort of shift gears and go towards other ventures, because I don't think it's in it for them.
Tim, Cliffy, any thoughts on this? And then we'll wrap up here.
I read the story and it kind of sounds like sour grapes. We're not worth as much as we would be in another market. It's like, I kind of agree with Andy. It's like, you know what? If you don't want them, deal them. But why do this on the eve of the 2022 season? It's that part blows my mind. But I mean, it's let them play, win, and then see what happens.
And that's the thing. This is a team that can win, and this is a team that can be competitive. And as I said before, you drop them in any other Canadian market, people would be all over them. People would be excited to be a fan of the insert name here, Argos. The fact that they're in Toronto, they're owned by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. The fact that they're just not getting that same push from their own organization that, say, like the Toronto Raptors or Toronto FC or the Leafs would get, it's crazy. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, I understand the frustration. I understand the kind of navel gazing, if you will. But at the same time, what have you done yourself to really promote the Argos and really make them relevant in everybody's eyes, not just in the city of Toronto, but throughout Canada and throughout, the Canadian Football League? What have you done to make this a better organization, other than you're hiring the right people? You've got the right people in place in the front office. You've got some talented football players. I mean, you've got, as far as I'm concerned, all the ingredients to be a competitive, successful team. But as far as promoting this team and making them relevant in the eyes of your average Torontonian, what are you truly doing to make the Argos a relevant force in the city of Toronto itself?
I'm sure the city of Halifax and their fans would take the Argos in a heartbeat.
And they would even keep the name. They would be the Halifax Argos.
Perfect.
I'm
the
telling you.
Schooner Argos.
Yep. They would be all over it, big time.
This has been good. I appreciate everyone checking in tonight. Tim and Cliffy, Alouettes Flightdeck podcast. You guys post every Wednesday, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yep. Andrew writes on CFL News Hub, XFL, USFL, all the news hubs. Lots of good content coming up. I like doing these pregame shows. Maybe we'll do more of that. It's so hard with my schedule during the summer. This Thursday is good, but I work like every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the time. But really appreciate it. Like I said, big show coming up tomorrow. I won't say it again. I don't want to trigger Tim, but big show coming up. Big guests are coming on, and I really appreciate any other comments from any of you guys before we kick it out of here and go enjoy some football.
All right. This has been exciting, and
fun.
by all means, folks, check out the Alouettes Flightdeck on YouTube as well. So, I mean, we want to get up to your level there, Reed, but, we're working on it. So,
Well, and that's why I thought this was a good venture tonight, co-production here with the YouTube stream, get all that. So I really appreciate it. Like I said, Alouettes, any CFL stuff, you guys are the place to go. Andrew, great writing on all this stuff. So I appreciate everyone. I'm going to play this stinger. Hopefully we'll get out of here okay. And thank you guys all again so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed.